Cool. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, my name's Noam. I'm going to talk about Design Club, designing Design Club, but it's not kind of technical or going to show much detail with design. It's a bit more general and kind of strategic in the journey I've taken. So, yeah, Design Club, it helps children and young people to become design thinkers. Can you guys see that at the back? So the mission is to kind of create a future of user-centered designers, but also kind of user-centered citizens. And the kind of thing I'm really trying to do is kind of develop skills in kids, so nurture empathy, collaboration, and problem-solving skills. So I've done a few things. I'm just going to quickly show you the few things and then then go back and show a bit more detail on these few things. So I've run an after-school club at a local primary school in West London, which is where my daughter, who's 11, goes to. Has anyone heard of Coder Dojo? It's a Saturday afternoon coding initiative, a club for kids. I've been there. And then Institute of Imagination is another place I've kind of piloted some projects at. It's a space in South London. It's actually an old fire station, which now is used for sort of workshops for kids and families. I'm about to start talking to the V&A and the Design Museum, so there's some interesting kind of conversations happening. And yeah, I'm also, you know, Moo and Marvel, so I'm using Marvel to sort of do some prototyping, partnering with them, and also with Moo to kind of make more kind of physical stuff, kits and things. And recently, actually, I've just got back on the weekend from Macedonia. It's kind of pretty bonkers. Working with the British Council, sort of to train designers and educators in how to deliver design thinking workshops for kids. Actually, with a colleague who sat over there. So there might be a picture of her in the slides a bit later. There's a chronology to the whole thing, so this comes at the end. So yeah, we were there for the weekend. But yeah, so I guess like the journey so far, I just want to kind of go through it. So I guess the spark actually for Design Club started in 2012 when I started to, have people heard of Code Club? So it's for volunteers to go and deliver coding sort of sessions, afternoon sessions with kids at after school clubs. So yeah, the spark came there. I remember thinking at the time, like, this is really cool. Like, this is a cool thing. I wonder if this might work for design. I kind of started thinking this is cool because we're getting kids to like build stuff, but we're not getting them to think about why they're building it and who they're building it for. And then, yes, but then but as Andrea said, so at that time though, I was quite busy with Mint, a company I co-founded, actually too busy to kind of do anything, working with lots of different organizations and, you know, all over the map, probably a bit like Red Badger. There's not really much of a thread actually there. Thread was probably social software, I guess. I was quite busy, but I guess, I don't know, a few things happened where I kind of started to think about what I was doing and life. One thing happened was my older brother, he passed away in 2014, and it kind of got me thinking. I don't want to sort of lower the mood. It wasn't totally unexpected, but it got me thinking about life, and he was quite young, and it got me thinking about like the scarcity of our days and like, you know, what I should be doing with life. But then I didn't do much with it apart from kind of put it in my head. And then we did some work with, do you know Christopher Reeve? He had an accident, I think it was in the 90s, where he fell off his horse and he broke his neck. And so the Reeve Foundation is a big paralysis charity in the States, and I did quite a lot of work with them through Mint. And I don't know, like, I think a combination of that, and it was very rewarding, you know, working with a charity that was really trying to kind of help people rebuild their lives and things. So I think a combination of that and my brother and just like thinking about life and thinking about, okay, you know, what's work for? And so I decided to leave Mint end of last year to kind of, I didn't really have much of a plan actually. I just said I'm gonna explore like tech for good, charity stuff, do something worthwhile. So I spent a lot of time walking my dog, a miniature schnauzer. I did a lot of volunteering in Calais. I kind of went out to the jungle and just like loaded up my car and just like kind of started to volunteer and donate, and I found that quite rewarding. I spent a lot of time with my family. I read a lot, actually. I read a lot of Ken Robinson. Has anyone read Ken Robinson? He writes about creativity in schools, and it's like really inspiring. And he talks about how there's not enough creativity in schools, and we're kind of draining kids of creativity and just focusing too much on academic stuff. And he's got a great book called The Element. And he basically, the whole book was great. There's a lot of stuff in it, but this is kind of what it boils down to. He says, you're in your element if you can kind of be doing the things that you're both good at and the things that you're kind of passionate about. So if you can kind of find that sweet spot, then you're in flow and life is great. And that's kind of what we should be looking for in ourselves and also trying to find in children mostly. But I was kind of thinking, where's my element? You know, like what? So it kind of led me to think about, well, you like working with kids, and I'm passionate about design, I'm passionate about educating kids, and kind of thinking back to my code club experience. So I started to kind of think, I'm going to do design clubs. At the beginning of the year, after a bit of like just sort of a couple of months out, just mucking about, not doing much, I started thinking, okay, what could design club look like? I did a lot of planning, this was really big actually, and there's a lot of strategy stuff on there. But I kind of, here's the pointer, I kind of like that, the learning experience, like I was sort of just focusing on what could a learning experience look like, and for like design club and, you know, sort of like working with kids and getting them thinking about design and making and empathy and collaboration, those sorts of things. So I started doing research all over the place, and found some nice sort of data, some things, and I've written about these things on a like Medium. I found this kind of interesting. It was all about kind of how you retain information, sort of, so what the best retention methods are. And I thought, you know, it's interesting, kind of, you know, you don't retain much from a lecture. But kind of right down here, like teaching others, so practice, teaching others, it's interesting. It also got me thinking about actually how, like, you know, like, we've been doing this actually since we were like humans, you know, for like, so this lecture, not so much. So I kind of think our brain is just hardwired to be really good at, you know, learn by practice and by teaching others. So I kind of like, okay, I want to make things like very hands-on, very sort of like learning by doing, etc. And I did a lot of research around methods and guides and tools for doing human-centered design, and this got kind of followed quite a lot, or clapped now. And it's just a list of, like, you know, design kit, you know, from IDEO and Frog's Collective Action Toolkit, loads of like design thinking resources. But they're all for adults, but I thought, what can I kind of use from them and learn from them? And actually I thought, okay, I need to sort of adopt some process. I could make up my own, but I thought, what's the point? They all largely look the same, a user-centered design process. So I sort of thought, okay, the Stanford Design School process is good because it's phase-based, it's designed for education. Sort of, you know, you can kind of move these around and it's iterative. So I did actually move them around a little bit. So it's meant to be empathize with the user and then define the challenge, ideate, prototype, test. I went with define first. You can kind of switch them around, but with kids, I kind of feel they need something a little bit more concrete to get started with and then do the empathy work. Saying that, you can switch them around. I have a lot of files like this, just kind of designing kind of worksheets that are very sort of hands-on, because, like I say, I don't know if anyone's looked at the methods and guides and things. They sort of tell you how to do it, but they don't really give you the actual sheets to kind of work on. And you've probably all, if you're in a design field, designed whatever, personas and templates and programs, and probably at one point thought, we should really turn this into a program and kind of reuse it. But then you don't. You sort of just start again for some reason. So I've got worksheets, a lot of them, and I made a kind of workbook, which is this, which you can look at later. So it just kind of creates kind of a narrative, you know, in the project for the children to kind of work through. So yeah, I thought, okay, like I've got this book. So I was doing a lot of strategy, and I thought, let's just make a thing, you know, rather than worry about strategy and who I'm going to partner with, how I'm going to like make this sustainable. I just thought, I'm going to make a thing and take it out to kids and just show it to them and start working with it, you know, very lean. So I thought, here's my strategy. I'm going to like create projects and create content and then build a network of clubs, after school clubs, a bit like Code Club. So I started the after school club in my daughter's school. I got the kids working in pairs, so they were kind of working together around a workbook, and I've made little cards that you can shuffle around. So it might be like help, it says like help Claire, who's 42, to eat healthy food. But it could be learn an instrument or read more books or something. So it's little design challenges they create, and the people could be a 10-year-old or it could be an 82-year-old. So they're getting to think about other people. And it's the cards, actually, that Moo are going to help me make. So we did a lot of working as a group, sketching together, so defining a challenge, so yeah, deciding on who you want to design for, what you want to help them do. There's sort of characters in the book where kids are picking who they want to, like I say, kind of design for. It's quite blurry, so I don't think anyone can read it, but you can have a look at the workbook. Going through kind of, yeah, empathizing exercises, like creating a profile of your user, mapping out a typical day. So, you know, actually kids love this. It was really weird, and they're really good at it. They're really good at thinking about, wake up, and do this and do that, and then thinking about it for others, which was good. And then they go through sketching. So they like this bit the most, understandably. Sketching their app, sketching over different screens. So sort of taking your features from the ideate stage, sketching their app. And then we make prototypes using Marvel, because I think it's important that, I think one of the things I learned from all of the tech-based initiatives out there, like Code Club, you know, you're making something tangible. I think kids like to make a thing. I mean, you kind of have to make a thing too if you're gonna test it. So we use Marvel to make a prototype, and kids enjoy it, and it's easy, and what's nice as well is you're not connected to tech like you are in these sort of more code-based clubs and initiatives. There were a lot of nice surprises. You probably can't see it, but like I kind of condensed down the book into 2 sheets. Here, like, so this empathize phase. One of the girls, like, so you kind of use this scale to like sort of say a personality type. So like this person's outgoing or shy or generous or selfish. And I kind of just designed this thinking you'd just put one person on there. But this little girl, I put my mum, who's the red dot, dad, who's the green dot, and then she put both on. And I looked at it and I was a bit confused at first. I was like, oh yeah, it's really good. So a lot of stuff like that happens. But yeah, there's like mini learnings. I get like, yeah, actually it's quite difficult though, actually, like facilitating different projects as well. When you're working in an agency and you're context switching and you're like, got that project and then another project. Imagine like switching between 5 in like, you know, the space of 30 minutes. You're like, it's a bit, you know, mind gives you a headache. And sketching, it's funny, sketching doesn't come naturally to kids. They really draw stuff nicely. They draw logos and they sort of buttons. And so I decided, okay guys, stop. So I showed them, here's a wireframe. And they were really liberated. They were like, great, you know, we don't have to kind of draw nice pictures. Kids don't like leaving white space, which is annoying because they've put good stuff and then they feel they have to fill it rather than, I guess it's like in a textbook, you know, at school, you kind of, for some reason, you have to enter the whole thing. Kids, there's sheets actually where the kids create information architecture. They really like that. And it was nice because it was a weekly thing over 10 weeks. It was a platform to test things out. It was 10 and 11-year-olds. But yeah, like I started thinking a bit more about the delivery strategy and thinking about creating projects, content, network, and clubs. And I thought it's quite a lot actually to ask of people to kind of do these sorts of things. It's quite a big undertaking. So I thought maybe I should revisit how things are delivered. So I went back to Ken Robinson. He's got a great book called Creative Schools, and he talks about how education is made up of 3 parts. Content, which is the curriculum, pedagogy, which is how you deliver the content, and then assessment, which is testing how well the content's got into your head. And I thought, maybe I should just focus more on that bit and be relaxed about how it's delivered. Being a bit of assessment, but I don't know, impact is quite a hard thing to measure here. So I thought, okay, maybe I should just like not worry about being exclusively about clubs. So I started to think, you know, what other people could I approach and partner with and deliver this stuff in? So going back to, yeah, Coder Dojo, I just kind of went along actually as a curious customer, I suppose, with my daughter, and just thought, let's kind of just make let's see how it works, immerse myself in it, see if we could kind of do design club at Coder Dojo. So at Coder Dojos, this is at Ada College. They happen all over the place. There's like 1,500 of them globally. But it's mostly 7 to 17-year-olds working on different projects. You might have a table here doing, Scratch, and then a table up here doing, no, actually they're the grown-ups. A table here doing, Python or JavaScript. We had some guys doing here. This is us doing some design club. So it is mostly tech, but it's quite nice because they're quite keen actually to have more people doing design-related activities and get kids thinking about what they're making and why they're making it. And yeah, in this, I developed a little mini project worksheet, which you can all have one. There's enough for everyone to take away. So yeah, it sort of condenses the whole process of define, empathize, ideate onto 2 sheets. And this is a nice one. This girl, she said, our target user is called Willow, and we want to help them to find other disabled children and have fun. And they kind of wrote why it's important. And just that was unprompted. It just completely, I was like, wow. And then she started sort of sketching the interface for what that might look like. It's essentially a map to find other children like you. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's got younger kids working away alongside older kids. And these kids are interested. These 13 and a 14-year-old. They just sat down and just started working on the worksheets without any guidance or any introduction, which was quite impressive, and kind of encouraging. This is more of us so I get volunteers essentially to just come and help because I don't make any money from any of this yet, probably never will. So volunteers help. And at this one actually, I think, yeah, do you guys know Marvel? You must have used Marvel. So yeah, one of the guys, the guy that co-founded Marvel, Murat, he's up there, he's helping out, which was quite nice of him. Yeah, this is just kind of design club in action, I suppose. I actually designed a new A3 worksheet format, just a bigger space, so it's all on one sheet, which is quite nice. But not many people have access to A3 printers, so I don't know. It's there, but I'm not trying to push that. And there's some work from the kids. It's interesting. Also, there's something interesting happened here. This guy here, Angelo. He was 13 or 14. He comes a lot to Coder Dojo, and he's come back to the design club table a couple of times now, which is good. It's encouraging. But what I've started to do is ask kids, once they've gone through the process and worked on a project, I say, would you like to teach the next kid about this stuff and introduce the material? And he did that. And I'm trying to do that a bit more, actually, because I kind of feel like going back to that learning pyramid, teaching others being the best way to retain information. I think we can get kids kind of peer learning, and obviously we do it at work, and it's an effective way to get stuff done. So yeah, many learnings from it. Yeah, actually it's interesting because the kids on a Saturday, they're more fresh. They haven't had a day at work, so they're kind of more a day at school, sorry. They're fresher in the afternoon, which is good. They're actually better behaved amongst strangers. I find that the after school design club, they were quite naughty, they were quite disruptive. I think it's because they knew me too well as well, seeing me around the school. And they knew each other too well, so they would misbehave. With strangers, they're better behaved. I also got more time to explore, because they've got maybe 3 hours, so it runs from kind of best part of an afternoon, 1:30 to 5. It's a challenge, though, adapting to the age range. You could have an 8-year-old come and sit down, and you might have a 14-year-old, so it's tailoring your behavior as a mentor. And then drop-in nature of it makes it a bit more harder to kind of sync up activities and sync the kids up, sort of working together and things like that. And the last one I want to show you, so going back to the, I mentioned that in the after-school club, I had this sort of, I suppose, it was I could use it as a platform to test stuff out, because I had the same kids every week for 10 weeks. So the Institute of Imagination said that they wanted me to come in and help with a kind of day theme workshop around Metropolis, the theme of Metropolis. So I said, okay, cool, happy to do that. I'll use the same process I have, but I need a project. So I tested this first on my after school club. So yeah, this is what it looks like. It's just a big, cool space with kids doing stuff, doing loads of different activities, different tables. So I got the kids designing a space. So it was the broad brief was design a space for someone you know, and we used Lego as the prototyping tool. So it was all the same kind of frame a design challenge, empathize, come up with ideas, come up with a prototype. But then after you'd sketch it, you were sketching a space on isometric paper, like a little physical building space. And then instead of using Marvel to make a prototype, kids use Lego. And it worked really well. Yeah, it's an awesome prototyping tool. Kids made loads of different models. I raided my daughter's Lego boxes to just like pulled it all together and dumped it on the table. So by the end of the session, the Lego started to get a bit thin on the ground, the good bits to build walls and stuff. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So yeah, so this one, for example, so I was trying to get them to kind of like formats. It was like design, like a room, some kind of space, like that helps someone. So this little boy chose Sam. It was a friend of his. I think he was like 8 or 9 to write. So he just created this little kind of clean, minimal space with 2 windows, a desk, a chair, and he was one of the first ones. He had a lot of Lego pieces to choose from. And this one says a shed that helps my dad to work in peace, which is quite sweet. It was Father's Day that day. It was June the 18th. And then, I think the Lego bits are getting a bit thin on the ground because things are looking a bit wacky. But this one says, design a boat that helps Lucas to ride to France, which is a bit bonkers. And this one says, design a bedroom that helps Jules to get to his robot suit. So I don't know what that's about. I don't even know if it's in there. But they had a lot of fun, and they were engaging in the activity, and they were thinking about the user that they were creating something for, which is really what it's about. I'm not that fussed about the end product being polished. And I suppose there's quite a lot of younger ones, like 6 to 8 year olds, and they were quite hard to manage, especially when there was Lego. They were just like throwing their hands in the Lego boxes and kind of playing. But yeah, they're quite kind of hard. They're harder to engage and guide, I think, because they're just, you need to maybe sort of change the activities and change the, just kind of work on the worksheets. But Lego is a great prototyping tool. And designing spaces actually for younger ones is easier because they're just familiar to them. And apps, I know we talk about how kids are just naturals with apps, but actually, although they are, when it comes to thinking about how they might be built and put together, it's not so easy. But like a space, they're just, they inhabit them all the time, and it's quite easy for them to think about a space and what it could be. So yeah, I guess now I'm thinking, rather than going back to thinking about that like content and clubs model of delivery, I'm now thinking actually I've got this new kind of idea of a partnerships delivery model where it's design club as a thing or a bunch of activities around design thinking could be sort of embedded into different places. So yeah, I've done the after school club and Coder Dojo and Institute of Imagination, and I get maybe the VNA might be an interesting one because they have schools programs. Interestingly, with Coder Dojo now, they have a central website where all of the resources can be downloaded from, and I've been doing everything from a very bottom-up approach, just sort of going along to some London dojos and building relationships with the guys in London. But they've asked me if they could put the design club material on the sort of central resource, which I'm kind of thinking about. That's good because it means there could be some reach. I'm just thinking about what that means for like licensing content and what that means for design club. And then the last thing, the British Council. Have I been here for long? I'm not sure. So the British Council in Macedonia got in touch about 2.5 months ago, and they said, we're about to, we need to run some design thinking workshops or training workshops for educators and designers to run design thinking workshops for kids. And your organization has been recommended, and I'm like, whoa. My organization, it's not really an organization, it's an initiative, and it's good and it's doing something. But I was like, okay, wow, that's cool. We had a chat, and then so just went out there last weekend to deliver training to mentors to run workshops. We spent 2 days of mentor training. There's Nikki, who is there. And it was great, and it was a load of fun, and the feedback was great. The designers and mentors really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. They were basically just getting familiar with the material, not just the material, but sort of how to work with kids and how to behave and stuff like that. I mean, I think actually, I don't think it's that hard. You just kind of need to go and start sitting down with children and working with them, and you kind of you know, figure out how to do things. And I think it's a good thing to, again, like learn on the job, but it was good doing all of this. Some of them got really into it. The lady that designed this with another guy, 2 people from Albania, were like, they were kind of forgetting actually what they were doing. They were forgetting that they were here to sort of learn about this stuff to deliver to kids. And she was like, can I make this? Like, how do I make it? Because this is really good. I want to like build it and offer it. I'm just like, okay, let's talk about that later. Let's just kind of get back and focus on what we're meant to be here, meant to be doing here. It was good that they're engaged and they enjoyed it. And then like we worked on Friday and Saturday doing the training, and then on the Sunday we had a 1 day of like putting everything into practice. So with this space in Skopje in Macedonia where we were doing the training and then did the workshop with kids. So we had like nearly 30 kids come in, age between 8 and 14, 15. And they had a great time and they gave loads of great feedback, which was good. And they made lovely work too. I was like super impressed at the prototypes they made and profiles and stuff. It's like, actually a lot of it was better than we do as adults actually. And that's it. So yeah, but then I guess there's a bunch of challenges ahead because it is all, I guess I've been doing like a day or 2 a week for the last 6 months. I do have a proper job that I get paid for. Apps for Good. It's a charity that does provides app development courses to schools. So I do get paid for that. Not very much, but doing user experience design, service design. But I'd like to kind of, like do more of this. So I guess there's a bunch of challenges. They're kind of challenges / plans, actually. So I need to sort of find more partners. And I guess that's either, Coder Dojo is good because it's like good sort of gives scale, gives reach, or like testing something new. So the Institute of Imagination is good because I'm able to test something new, a new project. I need to create content, like a design thinking curriculum, resources and projects, session plans, etc., delivery guides. I need to recruit mentors because they're volunteers essentially, so people who are willing to give up a half a day on a Saturday, or you know. And I need to figure out how to prepare and sort of train them to you know, maybe work with children. I need to measure impact, which I've started to do. So, but I think it's challenging actually deciding what to measure and how to measure it. Whoa. Whoa. Is it loud? And then, use those results effectively. I need to form an entity, so a legal entity, maybe a community interest company or a not-for-profit. And I need to kind of bring in some funding so it's sustainable. So either through a grant like Nesta or RSA, people like that. Maybe I could sell kits, workbooks, etc. You know, maybe do a one-for-one model where, because actually a lot of companies have said, I'd like this stuff. I'd like the material to like use as a training method for, you know, people at work. Maybe I could do a one-for-one thing where I sell a workbook or something and then give something to a club or a kid at a Coder Dojo. I think crowdfunding is my thing I think I'm going to try. So asking friendly agencies like the Red Badgers of this world or the Mints mail company to donate, you know, maybe like 300 quid or something, and maybe find 100 of them to be Design Club founding partners or something, and that should give a little cushion to be able to develop stuff. Anyway, that's it. Anyone want to help with anything? You probably don't, but we can chat. So if you wanted to say hello on anything you can. Any questions? That's it. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. Well, really cool initiative. It's a great idea. And recognizing you just name all those challenges you have ahead of you. Although my question is, have you also thought about spreading out to, for example, adults? You mentioned that you work with not-for-profit and charities.
Yeah.
And I think there is recognition of human-centered design growing, but rather in the private side of the sector. So have you thought about delivering also workshops maybe to community centers?
Yeah, so the question is, have I thought about delivering this kind of stuff activity for adults. I have. I suppose I have. The problem is, I suppose, one of focus in that I've kind of more started to develop a brand for teachers' kids, and then what does Design Club look like if it's for adults as well? And also, not that I'm not interested in adults, I am, but there's a lot of opportunity for adults to upskill and sort of get involved in this stuff. I don't know, like maybe I'd be happier to partner with someone that might be willing to do it. So Marvel actually is an example. So they have been speaking with them about, because they get a lot of inquiries about, okay, the tool's really cool, but like, have you got any methods and, you know, sort of toolkits, resources to download that we can use? So maybe they might be actually a good, so I think maybe partnering with someone to do that might be better, but yeah, if you've got any ideas or thoughts. Yeah, I think maybe I just need to do something, you know, in a corporate environment. Maybe tweak the brand. Yeah.
You mentioned that kids love doing IA.
Yeah.
And I happen to be working on an IA project.
Oh, brilliant.
So what can I learn from kids?
I don't know. So I think they just like to kind of move stuff around. Like, and I think I sort of spoke to them about, think of it like your clothes in your bedroom. You know, like sorting socks and pants and what. Then they sort of been like, okay. They started to understand like categorizing stuff and affinity mapping and things. So I don't know. Maybe it's like, maybe then the learning is to sort of like draw parallels to sort of things that are in our environment. I'm not sure, to kind of give examples of everyday stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure who you're working with and how big the challenge is. You know, is it BBC content type IA challenge or?
Like, because even explaining what it is that we're doing. Is
right.
Like, and to say something like, oh yeah, it's like sorting books, but like think of something that's in your real life that you're. And we're just sorting.
It is. You're sorting the cupboards in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, your food, sorting the way you move around the space.
Cool. Thanks.
Hello.
So you mentioned partnering with adults, with organisations, with Marvel. Have you considered partnering with maybe more government, getting these things into the curriculum? Is that kind of like
Yeah.
future goals?
So the question is around like partnering with, I guess, a higher level government and education. I'd love to. The problem is it's really difficult to get stuff to happen in government, you know, like, or through government and through the curriculum. My wife works at the DFE, but she's more in the engagement and social media side of things. Just fills me with dread a little bit trying to do something. So I don't know, I quite like working on the edges, and I actually think interesting stuff happens on the edges, like with after school clubs and things like that. But there are actually a few parents. We ran this like co-creation workshop, co-creating the mentor experience, and there was kind of noticed there were like 3 user types that are interested in mentoring, like younger folk who want to sort of understand design thinking a bit more, and then there's maybe older folk, how old, 35 plus, who are a bit more like maybe familiar with the world and the process and want to give back, and then there's like parents who have kids and just appreciate that, you know, they want to provide those kinds of skills to their children, so, or to children in general. So there's a few parents who've said they've spoken to their like sons or daughters' teachers. So I think, again, like doing it in a more kind of bottom-up way where it's, you know, doing like a half-day program where a teacher could deliver some projects to kids, you know, or maybe a whole day, like a kind of, they call it CLAPS timetable, where they sort of like enrichment time, where it's, you sort of wipe the slate of all the usual subjects and just do one thing focused in a day or a half day. So I think that I'd rather sort of trial that sort of stuff and do it, like I say. Yeah, exactly. More of a bottom-up approach and letting, because I mean, like I say, I think in the curriculum it's, so actually there's like, as part of my research, I went along to this like 1-day workshop for design and technology teachers. And it was all about like, how to become a great kind of design and technology faculty head and stuff. And I went there and I'm not a design and technology teacher. They quickly realized, well, I told them I'm not a design and technology teacher. And then they were like, oh, really? Like, what are you doing here then? I'm a designer and I'm looking at creating stuff for this community. So I'm kind of immersing and researching. And they were really baffled at why I was there. And I was like, holy shit, like, you know, like, why are you teaching design if you don't even understand the, you know, so it's just not a really modern course, design, and none of it is in schools. And it's just going off a cliff anyway in terms of numbers of kids doing design and technology, GCSE, and any creative stuff. So I'm not sure, I don't think this government is going to do much. So yeah, I think bottom up and on the edges is probably more the strategy. Yeah, hi.
I think, despite your pessimism,
You go.
so my daughter's doing DT. You know, she's done food tech and.
They're not all bad. Sorry, they're not all bad. Sorry, just general.
But just the general, I think, drive towards coding in schools and computer science as a thing, being sort of, I don't know, it being dangerous that they're going to miss the design point of it, like you mentioned before. So on that level, I think that's a good thing to sort of look at, and maybe going in PGCE courses in art and things like that. My actual question was more about, you mentioned someone saying, hey, how can I make this? Oh, I want to make this now.
Yeah.
Have you had many questions or discussions about IP on these?
No, actually. But so the charity I'm working with, Apps for Good, do have those sorts of discussions because the kids do make stuff with the developer. So what happens is some kids, their stuff gets made because at the end of the year, they go, there's an awards ceremony and some of them are picked to be kind of built. Don't know if that's going to happen in the future, but it has been for the last few years. And that does happen where teachers are like, who owns IP, especially if it makes, you know, and what about when it makes money and stuff like that? And that's just a discussion you come to when you come to it, you know, it's like, but with with this, I mean, I don't know, like, we're not building a thing, you know, and actually what's interesting is the pathways to building a thing. So with Coder Dojo, it's kind of cool because we've got a bit of a narrative now going where we say, okay, like, kid comes and they think about a challenge and an audience and they design something, prototype it, and then there's a pathway to coding, you know, so now they have a thing to code that's a bit more, you know, they're invested. It's not just going through a tutorial of building something. I don't know. I suppose if they ever built this theirs, isn't it? If they build it, why would Design Club or Coder Dojo or anyone else own it?
Marvel might.
Oh, Marvel? No. Why would they? No, because it's a tool. That's what it's saying when you use Marvel at work. They don't own anything.
I think, yeah, probably just worth, I mean,
yeah.
Interesting to think about.
There are things like that, certainly, that you could have to deal with. I've not got there yet. When I do, probably, yeah. Anyway, any other questions? No? Cool. Thank you so much for listening.